Hi, I'm Anita Redding, Managing Editor of the Stigler News Sentinel, and today we've invited Monty Guthrie, Superintendent of Stigler Schools, to provide some information regarding a presentation that he made yesterday, April 19th. There are some options that the school is looking at, and Mr. Guthrie made this presentation at Kaimeshi Technology Center, and we have asked him to come here today to make the same presentation for those of you who were unable to attend. Mr. Guthrie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity and for all that you and the staff at the Stigler News Sentinel have done to help us get the word out and promote this. We are in the decision-making stage. There have been no decisions made, and we're simply trying to get out and seek input from the residents of Stigler School District and see which direction they would prefer us to go as far as future long-term capital improvements for Stigler Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. At this time, we're going to turn this over to Mr. Guthrie and let him make his presentation. Please be sure and stay tuned, because at the end of the presentation, there will be some information regarding how you can provide your feedback and also have questions answered. Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. It's yours.
Thank you so much. As we get into the presentation, there's just a lot of information that has to be absorbed as we try to make the best decision for our community, and as we involve our community in the presentation process. So I have a lot of information that covers a very broad spectrum of knowledge that hopefully it will help the community understand the issues that the board has to deal with before they make this decision. First of all, we started out over a year and a half ago with site planning committees, and at these different committees we had them at the middle school, the high school, and the elementary school. There were several things that we've already implemented from these site planning committees. We added an art program. We've implemented the school messenger program to better communicate with students and parents. And we've also looked at a number of long-term capital improvements that came out of the site planning committees. The number one issue that was asked to be addressed with the site planning committees were to replace the portable buildings with permanent structures. Followed that with a desire, and it's very, quite honestly, it needs to happen in the future. We need a safe room at each site. Currently, we do not have a safe room for any of our buildings, and so that's something that we're looking into to try to meet that need. Number 3, which was the one that I was somewhat leery of, was construct an entirely new elementary school, and that one's one that we've looked at Stigler before, and it still seems to be a very pressing issue for a lot of parents. Also, we would like to do something to construct a cafeteria at the high school, and we have been working on the leaky roof that we have at the middle school, and we've done a very good job of identifying those issues and getting them repaired. When we talk about the portable buildings, we currently have 9 portable buildings at the elementary school. We have 3 portable classrooms at the kindergarten, 1 portable cafeteria at the kindergarten, and 1 portable classroom at the middle school. So we have a total of 14 classrooms in portable buildings. When you look at the elementary school from the view from above, you'll see that we don't have 11 trailers or 11 portable buildings, but we have that many classrooms. In the long, narrow portable classrooms with the red roof, we have 4 classrooms in there. We have 2 full classrooms on the one of the southwest portable buildings, and then our computer lab was really meant to be a single classroom, but it's been divided down the middle, so we actually have 2 classrooms in a portable building that was intended to be 1 classroom, but it serves as our reading and math labs. How would we solve the problem of getting rid of our portable buildings? That would be 11 classrooms. Well, we've looked at several options, and one option would be to construct a new site at the current elementary site. The current building, the current solid structure building that most of us were originally acquainted with as Boone School, is approximately 17,000 square feet. So we looked at building a structure that is approximately 17,000 square feet, remodeling and re-roofing the current structure, and then filling that with students who are currently in portable buildings. We're going to go back and look at our aerial view, and you'll see that currently the elementary school faces 5th Street. 5th Street is the one that you turn in front of the Pizza Hut if you're going north, and that's where our main drop-off is. What we're going to look at is kind of flip-flopping the building and putting the front of the elementary school facing 6th Street. It would be placed on where the basketball courts currently are and the 4 portable buildings. This would give us a structure of approximately 17,000 square feet. Within this would be a very secure entrance system. It would be all of the offices, the entire office complex, and the 6 classrooms that are located in the center of the building. Those would be safe rooms. The entire structure inside the center of the building would be a safe room, including the hallway. This would give us plenty of room for our entire elementary school to be in a safe room in the need of inclement weather. We would also move it back so that we could have at least 3 lanes of traffic for drop-offs in the morning and pickups in the afternoon, and we would reroute the bus pickups to alleviate the traffic issues that sometimes occur at the elementary. When I say sometimes, I mean sometime every morning and sometime every afternoon. So with this, we would have $2.2 million in the construction of the 17,000 square feet new structure. That would leave us with $600,000 to re-roof and renovate the current building. It's going to cost us somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 for the re-roofing, and then we could also use funds for our building fund or QZAB money to help finish that project if we should need to use more funds available to give everyone exactly what we promised them. When it comes to how much is it going to cost, that's, everyone always wants to know that, and it's a very legitimate question. We could do this in a single issue general obligation bond for 10 years. When you talk about general obligation bonds, when you're dealing with general obligation bonds, you have a bonding capacity. Your bonding capacity is 10% of your district's net assessed valuation. So the most that we can acquire in a single bond obligation would be $2.9 million. In this, if we stretch that out over 10 years to pay it back, we are looking at a 15.74% tax increase. So for the Stigler resident who is currently paying $500 a month or $500 a year in property taxes, their tax would go up $78.60 or $6.56 a month. This is just a concept building. We've made no decisions on what it will look like or how it will be, but this is something that we could see as far as facing 6th Street on Stigler. At Stigler Elementary School, it would be our entrance and, of course, the secure entrances, and the office complex are at the front of the building. At our first town hall meeting, I proposed a 2-phase construction of an entirely new elementary on the property that the school currently has on Panther Lane. It's the corner of Panther Lane and Perry Road. Okay. As we look at building in 2 different phases, the first phase would be more of an infrastructure phase, as well as 2 to 3 grades could go at one time. For planning in the future and the the belief that building costs are going to go up, I think it would be important to include things such as a safe room, which is included in the cafeteria portion of this proposal, and also to go ahead and get the PE facility, which we currently do not have one at the current elementary school. In the presentation of this at the first town hall meeting that we had, I found out that there was very little appetite throughout the community to do this in multiple phases. To do this in multiple phases, we would probably need to start out with a series building bond of about $7.3 million. That would give us $5.6 million to build the first 46,000 square feet. The total building would encompass somewhere around 75,000 square feet and would house kindergarten through 4th grade. In the series bonds, we're going to stretch this out longer, so the percentage of tax increase would not be, there would not be any significant change there, but the length of time that we would, I messed that up.
Go ahead. You can start over.
As we look at a $7.3 million series bond, you will see that the tax increase will be almost 20%. Okay, and it would be for 17 years, and then at the end of that bond, I probably won't be the superintendent. I hope that in 17 years I'm retired, but in that case, to finish it, it would take the passage of another bond issue, and what would cost $3 to $4 million now to go ahead and finish and complete will probably cost significantly more than that in 17 years. So we're going to go to our final option, which is the one that I really didn't try to present very strongly at the first meeting because I wasn't sure how much consideration there was for a bond issue of this magnitude in Stigler, Oklahoma. Although I've never doubted, and I still do not doubt, the pride and support that this community continues to show toward our school system. To do something like this, we're going to need somewhere between 38 and 40 classrooms, and that varies every year. You can never predict what your enrollment's going to be. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, sometimes it's really heavy in one or two particular grades. So we would need at least 38 to 40 classrooms, along with the cafeteria that's also a safe room that will hold all of these students, as well as a PE facility. And we've done two things that probably reach a little bit beyond the scope of just having school in this design. Number one, the cafeteria being the safe room. It's designed that way so that when the tables are up during the evenings, it's also a community safe room, and we can house more community members in that facility in the cafeteria with the tables up, much more than we could in a classroom that had desk and all of the fixtures that go along with a classroom. So that's one thing. And number two, we've designed the gymnasium with bleachers so that we can have small elementary and middle school events there, as well as a stage so that we can have elementary programs, or could possibly even have programs from the community within that facility, and still have the stage and everything that you need to accommodate any programs like that. A little look at the facility here. You can see that we've got basically three different wings. One of those, I would assume, would be an early childhood wing. That way we could separate the very youngest students from the other part of the student body to give them a little bit, a little smaller of an environment in which they have to learn and operate. Again, we also have the cafeteria, which is a safe room that will house every student in the building. And another thing that we've really taken into consideration here is the traffic. With this concept, we can hold 50 cars in front of the building at one time, and they would be off of the city streets. We've got plenty of parking, and we can also, you can drop off and leave out without having to be stuck in a single line. And we've also designed this where the bus loop would be actually emptying and entering onto the North Perry Road out of the high school traffic as well as your Panther Lane traffic. So we've tried to be as community friendly as we can while we continue to develop our plan for a new elementary school. I think it's important that we look at series bonds before we go much further. When you pass a series bond in this particular example, you're looking at asking for a little under $9.5 million for construction. Okay, and it's going to be over 18 years that you're going to pay it back. So if you take your interest and fees and costs associated with the selling of bonds and the interest that bonds generate, or obviously no one would buy them if it weren't for that interest, then the total cost is going to be, with principal and interest and expenses and cost, are going to be $13,755,000. But we would have just right at $9.5 million for construction purposes. If you take that into 75,000 square feet, it calculates at just a little over $125 a square foot, which is a very medium price for commercial construction in today's construction world. Here you can see that your bond, the cost of this is a little more expensive. It would be a 28% tax increase for the taxpayers of Stigler Public School District. So if you're currently paying $500 a year in property taxes, it's going to raise it to $640. $140 a year, or a little under $12 a month, would be your increase in taxes. That's it's significant, but at the same time, as I try to think of how I could save $12 a month in my disposable income, there are many ways that I could do that. Here would be the concept of the way that the building would look from the front view. And there's a concept of the overall layout of the campus. The most recent bond issues that Stigler schools have had, in 1979, we passed a bond issue for $515,000. That was put with the money for the fire at the old high school, and we constructed the new high school. In 1988, we passed a bond issue for $600,000 for a high school gymnasium. And in 1990, we had as nice and as up-to-date of high school campus as as anyone in this area. But we have no longer continued to progress and make those improvements as the way we were in the 1990s. 1994, we passed an $860,000 bond issue for additional classrooms in the high school and the middle school. Both of those were very much needed, and the middle school is back to capacity. The last bond that we have on the books for Stigler Public Schools paid off in 2004. So there have not been any school sinking fund bonds on the books since 2004. As we talk about the increase in taxes, I think it's important that we get a fair comparison as to where we currently stand in the amount of taxes that we pay compared to those around us or those that are good comparisons to us. So what I've done is I've taken 64 school districts. The largest has an enrollment of 1,882, and the smallest has an enrollment of 1,024. We currently have an average enrollment of about just below 1,400. So we're right in the middle of this comparison of 64 schools of our size. The first table shows how many sinking fund meals each of these schools has available that's going into their sinking fund to pay for long-term capital improvements. You can see that Blanchard is leading. They have 51 meals going into their sinking fund, which is providing them $2.3 million a year to service that debt. As you scroll down the list, you'll see that Seminole, Muldrow, and Stigler are the only three that currently do not have any bond indebtedness on the books. The next table we'll just talk about for a minute because it's important as we go into table number 3. Your bonding capacity is set by when the assessor assesses your entire school district. For us, that's 196 square miles. There's a value that they're all added together and put together on that. Our net assessed value is $29.2 million, which is not at the bottom of this list. We're 51 out of 64, so we have a decent net assessed value until you look at the number of square miles that our school district encompasses. So when you do that and you break it down a little further into a square mile evaluation, you will see that according to what we're paying property taxes on, a square mile in Stigler is valued at less than any of the 63 other schools on a square mile basis. This is a very difficult thing to describe or to overcome because I personally want to think that the property in our district and in our town are worth just as much or more than a lot of the schools that are listed in this comparison. But what this does is this continues to keep our net assessed valuation down, and so when we try to do something at the school, it's going to be a larger percentage of tax increase than we would like to ask for. But when your net assessed valuation is at that level, you really have no option compared to today's construction cost. When we compare the local schools that are around us and what they are currently paying to service their bond indebtedness, you see that Quentin is paying a little more than Keota, and that again, as we scroll down, you'll see that Stigler is at the bottom. We are the only one in this area that's in that level of not looking for capital improvements and not spending the money to invest in our school systems. Who all is doing it in the areas around us? You can see that Chakotah has made a significant investment in the future of their educational facilities. Eufaula has a new elementary and new middle school. They have made significant investments into the future of their education facilities. Gore has recently passed a bond issue for a new event center. Panama has just completed their new event center that sits beside their new elementary school. Quentin has been in their new event center for a couple of years. A very nice investment into their community. Roland made about a $2 million investment into an upgrade of their high school facilities. And Sallisaw has recently completed a new middle school. Very nice, state-of-the-art middle school, and they again have made a significant investment into the future of their education. Why are they doing that? Because as even Oklahoma, even in rural Oklahoma, people are becoming more mobile, and they're not tied down to one town the way they used to be. And they are looking for good places to move. And one of the things that attracts them are good schools and the quality of the facilities that those schools have. So I think it's very important that we look at ourselves and our community. You can see that Wilburton has almost completed a expansion and a remodel of their elementary school. A little over a $9 million bond for Wilburton schools, and they will be in that soon, and they've made a significant investment into their school facilities. So we are putting together as much information as we can. We're asking you for your input. I wish that the state of Oklahoma had different ways for us to make investments in these capital improvements, but they're very limited on where we can go and where we can raise the money to do that. And we're coming to the community now to ask you for your input and help us make this decision. Thank you.
Mr. Guthrie, we appreciate all of that information, all the work that went into preparing that for us today. If someone has some questions or would like to provide some feedback, how would be the best way to reach the school?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, and it's real important that, first of all, we share the information, which we're trying to do, but also we truly are seeking feedback and input from the local community. So we have established an email. It is lookingahead@stiglerps.com. It's a totally separate email that we're trying to focus totally on any questions for our long-term capital improvements. You can call me at my office at 967-2805, or my office is located at 309 Northwest E Street. And I'm in and out a lot, but if you can call and set up an appointment, it helps. But always feel free to drop by at any time, and I would love to visit with you and answer any questions that you may have concerning these issues.
Thank you very much. And we appreciate you taking time to watch this video today, and we're going to leave you with a few scenes from Mr. Guthrie's presentation on April 19th. Thank you again.
Thank you. We're asking you all, the taxpayers and the residents of Stigler. It's not a 5-person decision on the Stigler School Board, and just because I recommend it doesn't mean they're going to do it. What we agreed together is to go out and get input from you all, because it's not a simple decision, and we're not going to show up with a blueprint and a price tag and say, here it is, take it or leave it. The next generations are going to have their hands full, and I would really ask you that we come together as a community and we pay something forward to that group of people, okay? So thanks again for being here and being attentive, and I really appreciate everything you've done. So thanks a lot.